Talking to John Jackson today, former wide receiver for the USC Trojans in the late 80s, went on to play in the NFL for the Cardinals, current commentator, color commentator for SC. How are you doing today, John?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Well, some news coming out of Los Angeles today about Steve Sarkisian. Of course, it kind of broke Sunday, I guess, afternoon time, with Steve Sarkisian taking a leave of absence and then Pat Hayden officially terminating him today. What's been the talk in Los Angeles about the USC Trojan football program?
Well, obviously, the current events are compounded by the fact that the team is losing, right? So it obviously is a downtime for USC, on the field and off of it. I think the thing that at the end of the day, I think people sort of started to take it in and sort of see that to have a coach that has a substance abuse problem, is a major problem for the university to stomach. But at the end of the day, as the more the day has sort of wound on and people have started sort of digesting everything that's happened, I think that a lot of people, have now turned this into, or the Trojan fans have now sort of turned this into more of a personal, feeling for Sark, and an unfortunate situation where a head coach with a great opportunity, a great university, unfortunately has a personal problem that's getting in the way of it. And I think that as the day has worn on, Trojan fans and the city of Los Angeles has more sympathy for Sark getting himself better as a person, which is obviously more important than USC football.
Well, whenever you do see I guess a coach get fired about this time of year, especially at a big time program like USC is, you expect some jokes or whatnot out there, I guess, on social media or wherever you may find them. But in this case, it's just kind of like everybody's, looking out for Sark. They want to see him rebound from this. It's just a kind of a sad story, I guess you could say. And but Clay Helton steps right in. He's the interim head coach for the remainder of the season. Of course, he did this after Lane Kiffin left for the bowl game. What's your thoughts on Clay Helton? And do you think he has a good shot of maybe becoming the head coach towards the end of the year?
Yeah, well, I think if there's any sort of light at the end of the tunnel, the fact that Clay has sort of already been through this situation will obviously help. The one thing I can tell you from just being around the team, being around Clay, and sort of knowing him as a person, is that there's a great amount of respect for him and the job that he does from everybody involved, whether it be Pat Hayden, obviously having the confidence in him to name him as an interim coach, or even if it's the players, and like you said, they proved that to him last year in the bowl game against Fresno State that he can, he can get it done as being the head guy, and I firmly believe that he'll get that kind of response from the team. One thing you have to remember is that this team has sort of gone through this situation before. He's been through a lot of adverse situations around SC, whether it be the sanctions that they've had to endure, and the limited amount of scholarships that have, been available to the team, or whether it's been, the coaching changes. The one thing is they play Notre Dame this week, and it's going to be 4 different coaches in 4 different years that have faced the Fighting Irish the last time USC has played them. So the players are sort of accustomed to it. I expect them to fully rebound, and I expect Clay to do a great job just because I know he's been there before.
Were there any, with you being around the USC football program, were there any, I guess, red flags with Sarkisian and maybe the alcohol substance abuse? Because the LA Times did have a piece where they came out with, I guess, receipts from his time at Washington with heavily drinking. Was there any red flags just being around him, I guess, the last year and a half?
Well, it's funny because, now, it's like anything else, right? Now all kinds of stories of any time he's ever had a drink or any time he's been in a social setting having a drink, that's going to, people tend to see that as a red flag. I am worried about the fact that some of the things that happened in Washington, because that just means that the situation wasn't vetted out probably properly, before him coming here. I don't know how much, if any, of that information was provided to the athletic department before his hire. That would be, my primary concern in terms of being a red flag. But up until the salute to Troy, which was the event in the summer that he, said some profound words that, of course, aren't tolerable in that kind of environment, up until that point, there weren't any major infractions. Now, when you say red flags, I mean, you sort of look at like situations like he has a pending divorce, that's happening right now. I guess that's always a red flag for anybody, not necessarily have a drinking problem, but a red flag that, things aren't quite right in life. And then, the stress of being a USC head coach, trust me, with all the stuff that I talk about on a daily basis, I get stressed out talking about all this stuff all the time. I can only imagine what it's like to be the head coach. So, I think that, I think there probably was some definite red flags around the organization, but I also think that Pat Hayden in particular was trying to take some steps to correct that, especially after the salute to Troy incident, that he tried to, sort of try to address that issue. It obviously didn't work, and, it's unfortunate, but I think in the long run, for the best of Steve Sarkisian, the person, this might have been a good thing.
Well, John, immediately you hear the Chip Kelly, the Jeff Fisher, the even Pete Carroll's or Jack Del Rio rumors to hey, they're on board to be in line for the next head coach at USC. What do you make of that with some high caliber names that could possibly be at the top of the rumor mill?
Yeah, well, I think that, you're going to get that from USC, fans. They think that we can just go ahead and hire anybody from any job because as far as their life goes and as far as the world that we live in as being Trojan fans, there's no job that's more important than the head coach of USC. I do think that the guys you name on those lists, obviously several of them, or not all of them, are tied up on NFL teams. I sort of caution when you talk about NFL guys, not because it hasn't been done before, where guys have come back to college, but the guys that have come back to college, like such as Nick Saban and those type of guys, they weren't having the same kind of success as some of the guys that you just mentioned there. Pete's gone to Super Bowls, and Jack Del Rio is now got the Raiders going the right direction, and so some of these guys have had success, and I can just tell you, just from my own personal experience, I don't know if the college job is a lot harder. The recruiting part of college football makes the job as a whole a lot harder than it is in the NFL, especially if you have control over the draft choices, as some of those head coaches you just named do. So I am really, hesitant to think that those guys are front runners or even leaning toward the job. Not that it's outside the realm of possibility, but I just know that from a lifestyle standpoint, college football is much different than the NFL. So I would not necessarily, count those guys' names as shoo-ins. But me as a fan, I'd love to have any one of those for it.
Do you think John Robinson, the legend that he was at USC, and he made that return trip back to USC in 2 different stints, do you think it has any validity of Pete Carroll maybe doing that?
Yeah, well, Pete, the one thing with Pete, like I said, he's been to a couple Super Bowls now, and so, I think that Pete, knowing him and his competitive nature, especially the way that last Super Bowl ended, he would like nothing else to do but amend for that, for the loss they had last year and try to, win multiple Super Bowls. I think it is possible, but also, once again, Pete has full control in Seattle.